You're about to hear from a man born in 1896 tell you about his childhood in the 1890s and the early 1900s. And yes, he was actually born in a cave in what was then called the Oklahoma Territory, located about 100 miles south of the famous Wild West town, Dodge City, Kansas. He talks about going to school in a one-room schoolhouse where a single teacher taught all 8 grades at the same time. And he will share stories of his mother cooking family meals on a wood stove, how the family preserved their meats, and the type of food she packed for him in his lunch bucket for school each day. And yes, they did call them lunch buckets back then. He also mentions that while at home, he was never allowed to throw away any paper, as it was considered a valuable commodity back in those days. He will tell you about earning $20 a month working as the school janitor while still in high school. So now let's get into this amazing video recording. The year of the interview was sometime in 1988 when he was 92 years of age.
I'm the oldest of 10 children. I was born in August 28, 1896. I was born at Cherokee Strip, OT, Oklahoma Territory, 1896. Those early days, we lived in, really I was born in a cave. There wasn't nothing but a cave.
In a cave?
Right. The next home was a half dugout. To start with.
In a half dugout.
I would like to just talk to you kind of
Sure,
about things
just
you
go
should
right
put down
ahead,
so
sir.
you make it out.
Could I ask you one question?
All you want to.
Was there, what was the closest settlement or town to where you were born?
Closest settlement,
Uh-huh.
Augusta, Oklahoma. None up there now. But a year after I was born, or about that time, Carmen came into being. And I remember seeing the first Orient Railroad come through there.
Oh my goodness.
I went down and watched it. We lived a mile north. Another thing, first day I went to school, I remember it the day I went to school.
Tell me about it.
My neighbor boy, who older than I am, came and walked to school with me a mile south to see me. My mother had fixed a dinner bucket for me, of course. And when I got down there at noon, they let out noon for. I thought they would go out. I started to go home, take my little bucket and drive on down. And this man who was with me at that time come and got me and brought me back. I remember my teacher trying to teach me to write, taking a slate, pencil, and a slate, trying to rip me. Pearl Halstead was her name. Her husband had a butcher shop there at that time. So that was in that'd be in 1902. First day of school.
1902. Do you remember the name of the school? Do you remember the name of the school?
Carmen High School. Carmen Schools.
Carmen School.
Carmen School. And had one teacher in 8 grades.
How did she manage to teach?
She managed to teach, she managed us to write, she taught us to be good. She was the most wonderful thing in the world. Had a whole room, one room, 8 grades.
How many students?
I would say 30, 40, something like that.
How did she handle the rest of the grades while one particular
I
class
don't
was
recall
learning
how it
something?
was, but I remember taking my hand and the slate pencil and showing me how to write. And
What sort of things did your mother send for your lunch in your lunch bucket? I'm really curious about
Well,
that.
I don't remember, but I know it could have been cornbread or
Well.
biscuits, something like that. Always pork, you know. We had pork, we killed chickens. We didn't buy any meat anywhere, you know. We ate what we raised.
Did your mother have to preserve these foods like the
Oh
meat?
yes, I always put up lots of fruit and vegetables.
How
Big
did-
gardens, orchards. That's when they established an orchard.
How did she preserve her meat?
Wintertime, we hung pork outside, but the salt, they put everything down salt pork in big jars.
Uh-huh.
That's how I kept the meat. Pork, salted in jars.
Well, how about beef? Did you have to?
No, we didn't. My dad never did. We only had milk cows. My dad never did. We never had beef till I got grown, really.
How many times a year did you have to slaughter say, the pigs, chickens, of course, very frequently, but the pigs
I don't
in order
remember,
to
but
provide for the
we
family?
always, in the fall of the year when it began to get cold, we butchered hogs, and we put those away in salted, put away in salt.
Yes.
But in the wintertime, sometimes we did have some beef or something like that. We'd hang it up on a windmill. It'd stay there for the cold weather, But as far as the food, we had food. We lived, but I don't know how. But we had gardens. We had lots of chickens, and
You had a large family. You grew up in a large family, didn't you?
oh yes, 10. I was the oldest of 10.
When your father did slaughter, or when you did slaughter in the fall, how many pigs would you have to kill to last you all through the
Well,
year?
the neighbors would come in. They helped each other, and I don't know. They'd kill 2 or 3 hogs, and then each one of them would take one home. However, they worked it out. But the neighbors usually gathered to help do that.
I see.
There was no other way, to get along those days. We helped each other.
That's true.
If you owed a man a day's work, you let him have it. You never let him. You always let him have it back. People were honest. We were taught not to swear. We were taught not to cheat. If we got a licking at school, we got one at home. We wasn't allowed to lie to anybody. We had to be nice to people. And
I wish they taught more of that these days,
And we had to be so careful with our clothes. We had Sunday clothes. When we come back from Sunday school, we had to put them away till the next Sunday. And we'd have been barefoot in the summertime because our shoes was hard to get. We never threw any paper away, a nail or anything else. Everything was saved.
How long was the school year? How long during the year
9
did you go to
months.
school? You went to school 9 months.
Our folks really wanted their kids to get a good education. Most of them didn't have an education, They wanted their children to be educated. My father and mother, they'd get us kids ready and take us to school when it's bad weather. And if we got licking at school, we got one at home. We wouldn't lie. And those days, quite often, we had the minister on Sunday for dinner. We always had to go out and run down chickens, have chicken for the preacher.
Did your mother cook on a wood stove?
Oh, yes.
Oh, what was your favorite dish that your mother would cook on that wood stove?
Oh, no, I don't know. She was a good cook, but she always cooked a lot. She had a lot of everything for us. She cooked a lot. She always had cake, pie.
Do you have any idea how she managed to regulate the heat in that stove?
No, I don't. But I know this, she'd have to go out in the field and help my father go out, and she'd leave me to take care of the kids and watch the bread. I'd watch the bread bake, take care of the bread baking for her. I had to keep the wood in the stove. There's no coal, it was wood. And I'd bake the bread and take care of the kids while she's out helping my father in the field.
How long would it take to bake the bread?
Seems to me like it was about an hour. I don't recall exactly.
How many loaves would she bake at a time?
I can't recall, but it should have been. Well, at that
Several.
early days, there wasn't too many children, see. My time goes back to when I left home, I still had a little baby at home, a brother or sister.
Where, I think you probably told me this, but I'm going to ask you again. Where in that number of children, did you say 10 children?
Yes.
Where in that number of 10 children were you born?
I was the highest.
You were the oldest.
And this is one of my sisters with me now. There's only 4 of us live, 5 of us living. 5 of us are dead.
It's wonderful that 5 of you are still here, though. That's wonderful. Well, let me ask you this. I know you must have had, besides baking the bread, you must have had other chores that you had to do for your dad or for your mother. What other sort of things did you have to do on the farm?
We had to feed the cows and the horses and chickens, gather the eggs, hang out the clothes, and
Did you ever have to milk?
oh yeah, I had to milk cows, you bet. Had to feed the chickens and hogs every day.
How many milk cows did your father have?
Really, 2 or 3.
And that provided all the milk for
Oh yeah, we had to have it.
Did he?
And then later on we we lived on that milk. Later on, we got a cream separator.
Oh.
And then that was big time.
Oh, yes.
We run that cream separator. And then my mother would write out what she wanted from town. And she'd put a bucket or 2 bucket eggs in a buggy. And I hitch up old May, we call her, a gentle horse. And I was just a little kid. And she'd give me those eggs. I'd drive that horse to town a mile. And I'd have them come out and get the eggs. And she had a due bill there, what they wanted to say that eggs. I went in and I got the groceries that she wanted on that due bill. And if there was money left, well, I got due bill back that much. But I did chores like that. Actually, did all those things for me.
Goodness sake. I assume that you graduated from high school.
No.
You didn't?
I want to tell you something. That's been a handicap to me. I made 2 races for Congress in my life, but I had never had education. I knew it. But if I'd have got elected, the first thing I'd done, I got to Washington, I get me a speech teacher. I made that there. But here's what happened. My folks had adversities the time I was growing, and my father went broke. But in the school days, see now, I'm getting off the track. Oh, that was part of my work. That's part of it. Now, in going to school, I got in the 10th grade. But in the 10th grade, wait a minute. When my father had these adversities, we moved to New Mexico, Roy, New Mexico. I lived out there 2 years. I went to school out there. I came back to Sealing, and I got 1 year of high school. And then the next year, I bid and got the janitor's job, $20 a month for my 10th year at school. 2 units, 6-room schoolhouse was 2 stories. And I was the janitor for a whole year. When my folks had moved into town by that time, Ed's town, I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go down to that school, get the stove all heated up and cleaned up and swept up. And then at 4 o'clock I'd run home. First I'd get through at the school, I'd go home, get clothes, and then 9 o'clock I'd be back at school. 4 o'clock I'd go home, get dressed, come back, and do my cleaning up as much as I could the rest of the day. But I got by with school by getting that $20 a month. Then, 2 years after that, I worked in a drugstore for a doctor. Long hours. 6 o'clock in the morning till 7, 8, 9. And just this doctor and I had the business. He was pretty busy, and I was pretty busy. And so I got cheated out of an education, and I've always known it.
What caused your father's adversities? Why? What happened?
Got into some oil deals and some stuff like that. He was a good farmer. And that's all he knew was farming. He best farmer you ever saw. Good lad. He could raise anything. But he got messed up in some oil lease thing. That really did. Now the rest of the family, we had a hard time getting along.
I can imagine that was very difficult.
Yeah, it was.
After you say you worked during the period of time you would have been in high school, you worked in the drugstore.
Drugstore. After I got out of the 10th grade, I didn't go back to school anymore.
Okay. What sort of things did you do in that drugstore?
Oh Lord, I had a soda fountain to take care of, and sweep and clean it out, and sell drugs, and in the wintertime, in the summertime, cut ice to keep the ice cream soda fountain going. And I worked that by myself.
How long did you work there?
2 years.
2 years.
His sister's with me today, worked after I left school. She worked the same place.
She just sort of took
But
over
a
where
different
you
man,
left off.
different owner.